Welcome back to another episode of Relatively Damaged Live. My name is Angela, and this is
Kat.
the live show.
My green screen's all messed up today.
It is. That's okay. We'll ignore the green, and we'll just focus on the rainbow of colors. The live shows are currently streamed on Mondays to Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Remember to follow and subscribe and share with your friends if you like what we're talking about. On the Monday segment of the show, Kat and I talk about topics that we find interesting. And the question that we have up to talk about today is, how do you process loss? I know that's a deep topic for today.
It is, and there's a lot to it, but I know you have some wonderful poetry for us that we're going to use.
I do. I brought two. Yeah, I brought two for us. So I'll start with the first one. It's literally called A Loss. A loss. Have you ever found yourself dealing with a loss more than once? You feel the same about something, but now you're hurt again. You have once again succeeded in taking back that something you are powerless over. Why do you keep taking it back if you know what it's going to do to you? Once you give it up, you must realize that you must give it up forever. And this poem, I think I was dealing with a loss, and I'm telling myself, don't you understand? You can't go back to it anymore. I don't think that's true anymore. But
it depends. There are different kinds of losses.
Yeah, tell me what your thoughts are.
Well, okay, there's the loss of a death. You know, obviously that's kind of pretty final. But there are other things that, why do we have that loss? Is it because it's unhealthy?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, I was going to say divorce too, but I've known people who've gotten divorced and gotten back together.
Right.
Sometimes it's that space that's needed in order to process that. But those are kind of anomalies. I mean, usually when there's a divorce, or a breakup or whatever, a lot of times it's because it needs to be done because of unhealthiness in the relationship, and the relationship is so damaged that really the only way out is to get out and stay out and make it final.
Right. Which also I think can be hard because it is a loss, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then wanting, maybe when leaving either an abusive situation or experiencing that loss of a relationship, then it's like, but all I could think about is the good stuff, and it's like, oh, but I want to leave, so there comes that conflicting moment in time.
Yeah, well, there's also too, I think, a lot of people have, and I know I have too, have problems, but I love him so much, or I love her so much. And they, I love eating chocolate, but I can't eat nothing but chocolate. It's not good for me. And it's the same kind of thing. You can love a person, but that person and the relationship may not be good for you.
Right. Yeah.
Only you can determine that, but it's the healthiness of patterns. And that's where that processing of the loss comes in. What am I losing? But a lot of times you also have to look at, what am I gaining?
Right. Yeah. But I think, like, even in noticing what am I losing versus what am I gaining, sometimes we have this desire or maybe our brains just work this way, or maybe it's just me where, I want to beat myself up for there's a word I'm looking for. Bottom line is, I get mad at myself for thinking about it again, or like I would be angry about that, and instead of being angry that the thought is coming up that I'm feeling this pain and suffering, it's like, maybe, okay, you know what, I love that you have this feeling right now. As far as me talking to myself, I love that I'm having this feeling right now, so that I can remember, so that what is it telling me? You know, what this poem is telling me is that, ooh, dealing with a loss is, I do deal with it more than once. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I'm gonna go back to it again and again, and sometimes I can't put it down, even though I'm telling myself in that in the poem, like, dude, you got to cut this out, put this down, and leave it down, you know. But that's not true when it comes to loving the people we love, caring about the things that we lose. Like, for instance, people who lose all of their belongings in a fire or whatever, right? Like, or a flood or whatever it is, that is still a loss, and there's still meaning associated with those losses.
Oh,
And
absolutely. Having lost everything in a flood, I can attest to that.
right.
Or being robbed or something like that. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and it was very interesting about losing things in the flood. It's not often the things that you think of. Um, I had gone. The thing I think I was most upset about, and I lost all my furniture, um, all of my CD collection, a lot of books. I was actually most devastated by two books that I lost because I got them in Ireland and they were signed by the author in person,
Oh,
personalized
wow.
to me. And that my Ireland trip was a trip of a lifetime, a dream trip. And so it was like, that was really like, oh my God, I was just, I'm even getting a little teary eyed thinking about it. And that's the nature of loss too. You go back and you think about what I've lost, and it's not the book in and of itself. It's the book is the connection to that memory.
Right.
You know, of
Mm-hmm.
sitting down with this man who is a Senachie, which is an Irish storyteller, and listening to him tell his stories. And you know how much I love to tell stories, and how
Yeah.
much that connection is for me. And just it was just a magical day. And so it was that connection to that, and I still have the memory, but the physical object has something. I mean, with my grandmother, I have um I don't even drink coffee. I have an old coffee grinder of my grandmother's, and I was very close to her. And it's not that for utilitarian purposes, but I see that, and that evokes that memory of her. And all the
Mm-hmm.
times
Keeps
I
you
would
connected.
go, yeah, I would go, and I would, as a young adult, I would, most 20-year-olds don't want to spend time with their old grannies. I'd go every other week and go out to dinner with her, and then she'd take me to the market, and she was from Germany, so she'd take me to the German market and get the German food that I loved, that I grew up eating. And
Oh.
so it's those kinds of things, that evoke those good memories. And
Well, and see, that's still a loss. And look
mhm,
at these emotions that are coming up, even now, right? I mean, this is so many
right,
years ago for
yeah.
you. And so do we even ever really put, as I'm going to say, give it up forever? Do we? I don't think so. I don't.
Well, we don't give up our memories, but we do have to, in a sense, give up, I think, what we have to live in the now. So we have to give up the
Mm,
past. Like, I mean, I think of past relationships. They started off really well, and then there were problems, and then, transition from those relationships, moved on. Now I can go back and I can look fondly about, trips that we take, times that we spend together, but have the distance so yeah, sometimes I miss that. But I can step back and I can say, but what else came with it?
Mm-hmm.
When you have a death, like losing my grandmother or the loss of those books, I can never recover them.
Right.
It's just, short taking the book's short taking another trip to Ireland and tracking this guy down. Which incidentally I figured out how to do, but I follow him on Facebook,
right,
and
right.
Instagram. So, but so if I went there, I could find him. Ireland's not that big, but it really was. It's with the loss of my grandmother. Seeing that. I mean, I know it's a final loss.
Right.
So if I'm staying in that place where, oh, I miss my grandma, I miss my grandma, I miss my grandma, and never move on and live my life, instead, stay in that mourning period,
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going to move on. If I get a divorce from somebody and I don't move on, if I keep, oh, I'm going to stay single forever, my lot, that was my soulmate, my lot in life is to forever be single from now on, in the hopes that maybe, oh, maybe come back, realize what she lost. And that's why you have to process it. I think you have to realize you can't be stuck in the past.
Right. That something new is coming. But that also, I think, doesn't take away from the joys that were there. Like, okay, this is no longer the case. So and so is not here. And I'm going to feel that pain for a while. And then I think at some point, at least for me, it kind of switches. And then I can have those happy memories without also feeling the loss over and over and over again, and wishing that they were here in this moment to do that with.
Right. And yeah, I mean, that's the thing. So when I go and I get German food, or I find a good German deli, all the ones we used to go to are closed now. But I can find, I know of some, and so I'll go there and I'll get the food and I'll eat it, and it reminds me, of her, and other things. I actually, from my other grandmother, I have some old books that my grandfather had given to her when they were courting, and there's the little love notes from them, and that enabled me, to see another side of them, which was, I mean, it's just interesting. So it's sometimes those things really attach us to the memories. I mean, Facebook feed, the memory feed of the photos. Oh, that more often than not, that brings up something.
Right. Well, and I'm thinking, like, looking at that thing or that picture or whatever it is, it actually takes me to that place in my heart where I find joy. It gives me, I can have that feeling again, like the feeling is not lost when I see those things, which is beautiful, that even in today's world, that in this moment right now, if I see a picture of someone that I love, that it evokes that very connected feeling to them, and it makes me feel good.
Right. I will say this, because when I had that flood in my house, I took pictures and I posted them. Every year when those come up, that evokes that dread.
Oh, wow.
Because having to, yeah, or even when, like, I don't know if you saw in the news, there's been drastic flooding in Pakistan. And so watching that, and last week was Texas. Every time I
Right.
see those, it doesn't even have to be my flooding. It doesn't even have to be in where I live, but just seeing that, it just evokes that dread. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
and reminds me of the loss, and it does bring me to a place of gratitude, though.
Okay.
Um, because I was able to move past that. So it wasn't, oh, poor me, I lost everything. It was, yes, that was devastating. It was hard. It, you know, financially it was hard, but it also, in a sense, and I lost things that were precious to me, but it also gave me this chance to start anew.
How long did it take you to get from that dread to the to being able to be grateful?
Um, it took me 4 months after the flood to find a place. Um, but one of the things that I was able to do was I was able to, because the money we got from FEMA, I was saving to buy a house because I was renting a house. So I
Mhm.
used that money to as the down payment.
Ooh, so it helped you in a way.
Right, right. And so that, I mean, that was one thing. And then um but still, then I was living in this house and I had no furniture. I was using tray tables and lawn furniture to, to sit in the
Yeah.
house for over a year.
Yeah. I feel
Because it
that.
took time to financially save up for, you know, nice or normal things. And but it, again, it's yeah, I'll remember the loss. And again, it's the sentimental things. Things can be replaced, furniture can be replaced, but it was those sentimental things that really kind of uh
Yeah.
were the things that, when I think about them, it still touches that place of loss. But that loss comes from love, because if we didn't care about those things, if we
Yeah.
didn't care about our relationships, if we didn't care about other people, no matter how we lose them, death or whatever, it's a loss. And
Yeah.
we have that kind of memory in that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
know I'm talking a lot, but I've got a lot. Maybe it's just because we're a little bit older than you and have had a little bit more loss. But I know you've had
Yeah.
plenty of loss too.
Yeah.
Um,
I had 3 floods, so I get it,
oh,
you
so
know.
you can relate. I did not know that.
Ah. Yeah, one of them, a pipe broke in the ceiling. The other one, the water came through the wall in a storm, and then the other one came through the other wall. Yeah. I moved, yeah, three times in this one
Yeah,
apartment complex because of flooding, and every day,
you
it,
did
it
tell me.
was
Yeah.
it was tough. But I do have another poem, and we're around 20 minutes, so I want to get this
Oh,
in,
yes.
because I think it will give us even more to talk about. So this one's called Field of Daisies, and actually there was a friend of a friend helped me write a song that I sang in choir as a teenager, for my senior year. Can I find a recording? No. Do I remember somehow some of it? Yes. Is it exactly because we had made some adjustments? So it was a little different. So anyway, long story short, there may be something out there very similar that, the guy who helped me write the song, turn it into a song, but I can't find it. Anyway, long story short, here we go. Field of daisies. Sitting in a field of daisies upon a hill, I watch the sunset, my dog romping in the field, playing with the butterflies. What a sight, as I sit still and take in all the life. I know I need not strive for knowledge, it's right here, right now. I see the sun setting just above the mountain range. I see the colors, yellow and orange, red and blue, bringing me to the end of a wonderful day. As the day slowly comes to an end, the sun sets in the west. Lustrous colors may it bring, the brightest yellow light surrounded by the sensuous reds and oranges. As the sunset is the ending to the day, shows that each day ends with beauty, leaving in me the happiness, leaving in me the knowledge that tomorrow is still to come. Death, it may be an abrupt end, but for some it is a new beginning. Love will enter a life that had none, understanding in another's. But as we can heal together and our dreams all who we are, we realize that life has something to offer and we need not to deprive ourselves of it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it was a song. So the song, if I remember correctly, was sitting in a field of daisies up on a hill. I watch the sunset, my dog romping in the field, playing with the butterflies. What a sight as I sit still and take in all the life. And then it goes on. But anyway, that's like a little bit of what I remember.
Yeah. I think that's kind of what we were talking about before, though, is that whole idea is losses often bring new beginnings. So,
Yeah.
One day, and it could be a wonderful day. When you were talking about, the butterflies and that, it brought me back to another Ireland memory. And there's a small island off the west coast called Inishbofin. And we had taken the ferry from the mainland Ireland to that. And then we had a great day hiking around the island and seeing that, and it was amazing. Then on the way back, we had dolphins just on the side, accompanying the ferry. And it was just like, ooh, because we were all pretty much from the Chicago area. And so, there was a small group of us. And so, we don't usually see dolphins. So it was kind of, a cool thing. And it was just a magical end to a magical day. And some days the days will be perfect like that, like sitting in the field of daisies, watching your dog chasing butterflies, and just amazed by the colors of the day, and as the sun changes position in the sky. And those are magical days, and not every day is like that. But the point is I think you said towards the end, is that it's a loss. We lost that day. We lost that beautiful, magical day. But
yeah, and it go ahead.
It opens us up to others, though.
Right, and that's so. Like in the second to the last stanza, death, it may be an abrupt end, but for some, it's a new beginning. Maybe it's a new beginning for the person's spirit, or the, like, if it's a dog, whatever, the spirit of whatever inhabited the body. And maybe it's just the end of an experience that brings a new beginning. Sometimes we don't know, but there is that possibility. Like, as it goes on, love will enter a life that had none. And then it says understanding in another's. Maybe what enters is understanding. Maybe what enters is love, is what I'm talking about there. And then it talks about like healing together and in our dreams, and that life has something to offer, and we need not deprive ourselves of it. And if we stay in this, the hole that suffering, that loss can cause, when we get to that point where we're suffering, then we're depriving ourselves of life. But we also don't want to deprive ourselves of feeling all of the feelings of losing someone or something, or the end of a job. as far as loss, I remember when they came to me and said, oh, you can't perform your job duties 100%, so you're not going to work. And then they wanted me to work the rest of the day. And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, who does that? Who even, by the way,
right,
you're
you just
not
say go home and pay you for the rest of the day.
I mean, I was devastated. Mind you, I went home. They did not pay me for the rest of the day, but that's besides the point. But it was so painful. And because it wasn't just the end of a job, it was you don't have the capacity to do. Which if you've been around as one of my viewers for a long time, you'll know that I did write the poem called Relatively Damaged that I put out last year for Disability Pride Month. And it talks about that there's this belief that there's, you don't have the capacity to do, so you are no longer valuable. And that's not true. That is so not true. And so for me, that was like the death of a job, the death of who I was, the death of who I could have been, the death of a future that I thought I was going to have. It was all of those things rolled into one, and I was so sad. I cried and I cried and I cried. And I think it was within the next month that my uncle died. And it was either the next month or it was within 2 months. And I just, it, in that moment, I had to be grateful that I was able to go to the hospital and be there, because everyone else was working and he was intubated. And like, he's in the hospital and all the nurses are busy. I get it. But sometimes, a little bit of dignity, let's wipe off the spittle and the little things that say, I care and I love you. Because I think in those moments that I want to, I think that it is when we love that there's something special that happens. Like there's that experiment with the rabbits, and they couldn't figure out there were these rabbits that this one girl took care of, and they couldn't figure out the difference because there was an experiment, and all the other rabbits, I think, were dying, and these or not doing well, and these rabbits that she cared for were prospering, and the only difference was love. And so I think that even when we experience those losses, like, and in my life, I didn't feel like I had that support or love. And I needed that in those moments that said, it's, I didn't have anyone saying it's going to be okay. I had to figure that out. And it's devastating when that happens, I think.
Well, I think, for your case, that was a sudden loss. It was unexpected, and somebody dies in a car accident, or all of a sudden you get fired from your job for you get laid off or whatever. I mean, your case was explain why. And I think you don't have time to process it. Like when I decided to retire, it was still a big change, and it was a loss.
Yeah.
Especially because we become so identified with that purpose, and we say not that I work as a librarian. You say I am a librarian, or I am this, I am that. And so you take the identity. So it's not just a job, it becomes an identity.
Yeah.
And so when you lose that identity, it's really hard. I had time to prepare.
Yeah.
You didn't.
Yeah.
But it was still a loss.
Right.
But because I had that time to prepare and that time to process the loss, and it was a choice that I made.
Yeah.
But it was still a loss.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, with school starting, the kids, and my niece is autistic, and so she's going into high school, but she's mainstreamed with with assistance. And that was a big, it was the loss of the junior high where she had become comfortable, where she had excelled and made progress, and then she has to start all over again. So it was a loss, but it was a happy loss because you're moving on, you're moving forward in your life. But then the loss of the routine and the understanding in the going to high school was a new thing, and that's what these stages of life are. But you often have to have time to process that grief, the loss of what the loss of what you understand in all stages of life.
Yeah, and knowing that it's a process, and remembering, and that it might not be over in a day or a week or a month or a couple months or even a year. Sometimes we look back. I mean, you still have those feelings and those memories. Hey, Mom.
Hi, Becky.
It loss is hard, but processing it and knowing that you're going to get through it. I mean, there were times in my life during those really tough periods where I couldn't see another side, and processing it, thought it did not feel like it was going to ever end, that pain and suffering. And I think it took many years before I even felt comfortable. So I think if anyone, what I would say, because we're coming to the end of the show, is that if anyone is out there experiencing loss, be gentle with yourself. One of our friends actually made up a meme, and she wrote out gentle, and it says, giving endless necessary time, love, and encouragement. And I think that's true. Be gentle. Give yourself that endless necessary time, love, and encouragement when you're dealing with loss. So
yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Anyway,
that's beautiful.
So there is also a Relatively Damaged podcast where I interview amazing guests who've overcome some sort of struggle in their lives and how they found hope and healing. You can find the podcast on Spotify, Apple, and many more. And my book will be released on September 9th on Amazon, Poems from a Lost Soul. You can pre-order the ebook now. If you need the paperback or audiobook, they're on their way. I'm Angela.
And I'm Kat. We'll see you next time.